Hello. I hurt my back. I was doing push-ups. And I don't know what happened. Like at all. I don't know what happened. But I heard a coming from my back. And now everything hurts. But I have my headphones. I'm kind of like half laying, like sideways, and that's kind of helping. Um, Otherwise, this live stream probably wouldn't have happened today. But also, I should be at work, but I'm not because I'm dying. Not dying. I'm just in pain. But that's okay. I'm hoping that if I sleep it off tonight, it'll go away. If not, we'll need to call a doctor. But anyway, we're at the grand finale. I will probably do a review, but it's gonna be all spoiler free, just my impressions of it, because all of my like in-depth spoilers are kind of here as I'm going through my thoughts. And then I will do another, probably on Brennan's channel, a discussion about this book with him, because he's reading through it. But no spoilers yet. I'll say when. But yeah, I'll do a little small video once I get my new phone, because my phone's really cracked up and it's making the camera be messed up. But once I get my new phone, I'll record a video going over the book non-spoiler wise, and I'll do a discussion with Brennan as he said he's on chapter 5. He's almost 1/5 through, and then after that, I will talk to on Brennan's channel. Probably I'll do a big discussion with him on it, and that'll be that. But pretty much all my reviews for these books are going to be non-spoiler, because I'm going to use live streams as a means to get my thoughts out quicker, because they're going to get longer and longer, and I'm not going to have all my thoughts spread out in one YouTube video, because it's going to be too long and it'll take forever to upload. So, Brendan uploaded his like 5-hour EU video with all of us, but I can't do that. So I'm just going to do non-spoiler things. But before I get into spoilers, I'll say overall I really liked it. I'm still confused in a lot of things. I also do think, and I know a lot of Malazan fans are going to get back to me like, no, you have to read the whole series. I understand the series is completed. I understand that I will have a much better understanding if I just keep on going, but I still think it's a legitimate thing, even if the author's intent was to do a certain thing. And the fact that when he released that first book back then, think about back when it came out, books released, there's no other books to go off of. You only have this first book. There are certain things which are really frustrating and feel like Deus Ex Machinas. They're not, but they feel like it in the first book, because I have no context. So certain things pop up and there's just no explanation for it. None whatsoever. Okay? So there's this thing called Azath, and it just pops up out of nowhere and helps out. Okay? I understand, like, if I read the rest of the series, I'm going to like totally get it, like, well, of course they showed up. But as this is the only book to go off of, the fact that I don't know is frustrating, because then it feels like a Deus Ex Machina of a thing saving the day. Or the Crimson Guard. The Crimson Guard, without spoilers, they're just another faction thing. They show up, they help out. But again, I don't know anything about them. You've spent 400, you spent all these pages, and these characters just out of the blue. And sure, they'll be explained later. I understand. I have to read the whole series to get it. But the fact of the matter is, there's leaving room for world building. There's leaving room to understand things later. And like most of the things, right? Like anything I was like really super confused about in the opening chapters, like the first 100 pages, I slowly got comfortable and I got it. Like there's still things I don't get, but I'm like, I got this story. Like I get what happened, even if some things were confusing, but I got it. Like everything I needed to know for this story was eventually revealed to me, except for those things that come out of nowhere at the final moments. And I find that very frustrating for just on its own. I understand that if I read the series as a whole, I might have a different perspective. But if, you're trying to get people to buy several of these books, which is a large investment because, they get up to 1,000 pages long. You gotta, I don't know. I understand. I'm a small brain. I don't write books. I critique them, which makes me a loser because I don't actually know what I'm talking about. But I'm just saying that it's frustrating to see a new concept brought out of the blue to save the day. Now, if I finish the series, I might get a completely different perspective. But I'm trying to think like somebody back when it came out. They don't have any other context. They can't go to somebody and say, just read the other 9 because they don't exist. It's just this one. So, but that's really it. That's really my only problem. It's like near the end, elements just show up out of the blue with seemingly no explanation whatsoever. As for the magic system, I don't understand it at all. And that's fine. But the thing is, I see such crazy things in here. Sometimes things are happening in a dream and not actually in reality. However, it's hard for me to differentiate that. And maybe that's just because I'm not paying enough attention. But regardless, since this book in particular is not giving me the rule set for how magic works, it's just saying, oh, look at this cool thing. Look at this cool thing. Look at this cool thing. Look at this other cool thing. Because of that, I don't have any basis to judge whether something's super impressive or not. At most, I can go when a certain character uses 7 warrens. Like, so far, I've only seen people use 1. So using 7, yeah, that's a big deal. But then there's other things, there's one thing in particular that is apparently, I think, in a dream. After I read it, I thought about it. I think it's in a dream. But initially I accepted on face value that this was just actually happening in reality, because I have no basis to go, well, that can't happen in reality, so it's happening in a dream. Like, I don't have the basis to know that. So most of the time I accept everything on face value is actually happening, unless it's explicitly said that it's not, like it's happening in the dream realm or whatever. So those are some of my problems. And those, it's not big ones. It's mainly just like the ending to the book. Everything else, though, that people may complain about, for somebody who says, like, I definitely have heard, like, characterization is not the point of these, but I beg to differ. You see, me, I'm very much a character first person. I mean, set up a great world, have a great plot, but have characters that suck. And what's the point? I mean, you go to work day in, day out. You do your stuff, you get your money. But if you're by yourself, what's the point? Right? If it's just you every day, what's the point? The point of living, is to live. And that requires being around people. Everything, all of our stories revolve around individuals, around people. So that's why, for me, that's the most important thing. But to anyone who says that Erickson doesn't care about characters or that it's not a strong suit, I beg to differ. I live for little moments. For example, I'm a big fan of the Star Wars Expanded Universe. In the Star Wars Expanded Universe, there's an admittedly not a fantastic, I like it, but I recognize it's not perfect. It's a Black Fleet Crisis trilogy by McDowell, which is all you need to know is it takes place after Return of the Jedi. Han is now a father, and that's about it. That's all you need to know. He's a father. He's got a couple kids. And people complain that the book is boring because a lot of stuff doesn't actually happen in the Black Fleet Crisis. But in that book, there's a lot of these little moments where there's nothing crazy happening. There's no, I think Erickson wrote I've been watching a lot of reviews since I finished it of this first book, not that don't spoil for future books. And so I saw Erickson actually commented on one of these guys' videos, and he talked about, he doesn't like melodrama, which I guess is like forced drama, but isn't every drama sort of forced because it's written down, so it's not actually real. But anyway, so he was talking about that, and it made me think, about Black Fleet Crisis for some reason, and there's no drama to the scene I'm talking about. It's just there's a particular chapter in Black Fleet Crisis where we see Han just being a dad and just spending time with his kids. And for me, for some reason, that hit me. It was just nice to see Han in that moment, to see him just be happy and be a good dad. It wasn't dramatized. It wasn't a Matthew Stover, where Matthew Stover is really, really purple with his prose. But it was subtle and it was sweet. And so I will destroy anybody in any comment section that argues that Erikson doesn't know characters. No, you know what he does? Here's the thing. I think most people expect from fantasy a certain thing. And I think it's very much like the people who argue, and this is going to sound a little weird if you've never watched it, but Game of Thrones, phenomenal television show. One of the best shows I've ever watched. It's in my top 3. You know what's my number 1, though? Maybe it's a cop-out. Better Call Saul. And that's not to diminish Breaking Bad at all. Breaking Bad is phenomenal. Just like I know Wheel of Time will be phenomenal. Just like I know Lord of the Rings is phenomenal. Right? That doesn't detract anything. But the thing about Better Call Saul is it's written better. It's paced, to me, better. And the acting is just as good as the previous show, but it feels more subtle. As much as Breaking Bad is a show about Walter White turning to darkness, it definitely does feel like at a certain point there's just sort of instead of like a nuanced fall from grace, it's just changed. Whereas Better Call Saul, it's subtle. It's slow. It's small. But by the end of the show, you totally see how everything came about and how Saul became the way that he is. In fact, so many wonderful things I could say about that, but subtlety in the acting, in the performance, in the writing, everything about that. And I mean, there's certainly moments where they rage, they scream, this chicanery. You think this is bad? He defecated through a sunroof. Sorry. But this long-winded spiel to say Erikson is amazing. Absolutely amazing with these there's little moments of brilliance with characters. The thing that comes to mind first is there's a scene with Perrin and Cole where they meet at this campfire and they're talking, and it's not like a super big scene, but that's one of the scenes that stood out to me the most out of everything in this book, out of all the crazy anime stuff going on in this book, which, by the way, if they were to ever adapt these books, the only way you could do this justice is in an anime. This book is an anime. The things that happen in this book, it's a damn anime. The only time I've ever seen anything so absurd and crazy in my life has been in anime. Now, I'm not the biggest anime fan, but you could be damn straight. If I see Malazan is being adapted into an anime, I'm watching that. But you got to make each episode 40 minutes instead of the normal 30. Or an hour, please. But that's one of the things. Or even Rake, who's supposed to be this big, imposing guy. And the more you learn about him, there's so many subtleties to his character to make him. He's not just a brute. He's not just this Darth Vader of this setting. He has nuance. There's scenes where he'll talk to a character like Perrin or another character, and he'll give like a little smile, or he'll chuckle, and it's not like menacing. It's just like genuine, there's so many little subtleties there that is managed, and it's wonderful. So I'll say, non-spoiler wise, absolutely a great start. I had my little gripes that I talked about in the beginning, but that doesn't detract from the whole. This book is phenomenal. And if this is his weakest or one of his weakest, I'm excited for his best. Because I loved it. It really transported me into a world. And when you want to escape reality, that's great. But then also, it kind of does always bring you back to reality. There's little things in here that I think are going to be harped on even more in future books. But without getting into spoilers, just I recommend this book. I think power through, no matter how hard it gets. But it's you need to check it out. That's not a spoiler, okay? So I've gone on my spiel about why I think Erickson's great and how I'm excited to read more. But if you don't want any spoilers outside this fan art I just posted, it is time for you to go. Okay, book 6. We have the City of Blue Fire. So Ocelot is sent to kill what's his name? Frick. Rowlis. Wow. Rake talks about betrayal with Baruch, and I thought this was a great just little scene between them about how he will not betray Baruch or anything. And I love Rake. Rake's got to be one of my favorites so far, along with Perrin. Rake wants to defy Lesson by leaving Darjustan intact, but out of her reach. And I love this. He's like, because Baruch keeps being like, oh, you don't care if the city burns? And he's like, calm down. If I wanted to defy Lesson and just simply burn the city to the ground, I could have done that already. Easily. But that's not, I don't want to do that. I think it will hurt her more if I keep your city safe and out of her hands. So that's what I'm going to do. Again, Rake's just phenomenal. Also, the Tistiandi, which is Rake's race, I'm confused. Are they all about 20,000 years old? Or is it 20,000 times 15? Because the way he words it, I got very confused. So either his entire race is around 20,000 years old, like they've only existed for 20,000 years, or they've existed for 20,000 years times 15, which would be insane. We have this thing about the Circle Breaker. I don't have much to say about it, but again, and here's another subtle but good, sweet character human moment, despite some people saying that he doesn't have it. Even in this first book, we have this whole thing about being human and Whiskey Jack with his friends, because he's tried so hard to push everybody away, to be this strong, commanding leader or whatever, but all these people consistently have his back. And he realized slowly but surely that he does care about these people, and that it's dangerous to care about people, but, that's part of what makes you human, is his friends and stuff. And I'm kind of butchering it, but again, it wasn't a huge scene. It's actually it's treated rather minor in the grand scheme, but if you take it in a vacuum, it is such beauty written on the page. And I know it's only going to get that times a million in future books. Rowlick fights Ocelot, manages to kill him. It's a very intense fight. And is he dead? Well, we're in the spoiler section, so no. Here's the big thing that's going to be a part of the next book series that we talk about, which is the Seven Cities Rebellion. Which, guess what? The Seven Cities is an entirely different continent, like to the left of where we're at now. And actually, I can show a map real quick if I wanted to. Oh, hold on. Okay. Alrighty. Let me stop sharing for a second. And we'll go over to sharing over here. It's world map. So over here is where book 1's taking place, with this Genabacchus, with Dodrustan being right here, the Joby Hills. There's a bunch of other things that I can't know about yet, but that's what you need to know. And the Pale somewhere over there too. And then over here is a huge other landmass, completely different continent, separate from right here. And this is where the Malaz Empire is. It doesn't matter for now, but that's where that is. But here, click in, we got the 7 cities right here. Anyway, so that was the main thing. I'm going to get out of this and go back to the epic the epic art real quick. Give me a second. But yeah, so we get mentions of the Seven Cities Rebellion, and outside of a couple characters, because I already saw the dramatic personae, outside of a few characters in book 2, it's going to be an entirely new cast of characters and setting. So, but this rebellion is what book 2 is going to be about. So we'll get there when we get there. But then another thing, and this is hinting at stuff that will happen in book 3, which is Panion Seer and this holy war that is brewing, which will be addressed in book 3. Book 3 is in the novel 3, not book 3 of this book. It's confusing, I know. And then we go to book 7, Fete, I don't know. Big thing, we learn that Krufi is the eel, and Murillo learns this, and when Murillo learns this, he Jedi mind tricks him. He makes Murillo forget, which, I mean, some people might have not saw this coming. I wasn't surprised. I mean, I didn't necessarily know, but I wasn't surprised. I wasn't like, oh my god. I mean, it made sense. He's one of those characters, Yoda, you can think of 1,000 others, who play a certain character. They play like the fumbling idiot, that is, but they're actually one of the strongest, wisest ones. Like I knew it. It wasn't like shocking to me that was the direction they took. I actually would have been more shocked if Erickson had made him actually just be retarded. So I didn't mean to say something rude, just stupid. I didn't mean. My gosh, I'm gonna get canceled now. I apologize. No, look, Crappie, whatever, phenomenal character. I love him, and I love this world. There's a Simtal party that's being had in the city, which is another convergence of all the characters kind of mingling. We also have this just fantastic moment where Ray goes to this party. He's like 7 foot tall and he's wearing like a dragon mask. Is like, I think people are still gonna recognize you, man. There's also this really funny thing because Tuban or keeps getting mentioned as like this powerful dude, and then Rowlick kind of beats him in like a page. It's funny. But then the big thing happens. We cut back to Lorne and the Taman or whatever, and they awaken the Jagut tyrant, which is where this artwork comes from, and he is called Raced. He awakens, and he awakens to fight a bunch of dragons. Or did he? Was that in a dream? I think now it was in Krupe's dream, but I'm not sure. I don't know because it wasn't very explicit. But regardless, there was like 5 dragons, and he's not at full power yet, and he just beats a lot of them up like pretty easily. Like it was crazy to see. It was insane to witness. But yeah, you could just do it. That's what I'm saying. Like it felt like an anime. Like that was like an anime moment. If I've ever heard of one, it was that. But it was crazy. And then it goes on. We hear about Captain Stillis, which seems to be a new character, literally just brought up. And then Kupi shows up and talks to Race and kind of shows that he's not afraid. He's either on par or close to it because he's not too worried, but he doesn't defeat him though. Quick Ben uses 7 warrens at once, which is pretty insane to think about. Now that in of itself, it's not like something he can abuse. So I recognize that this is something that cannot be happening often by any character because Quick Ben could only do it for a short amount of time and he really suffered for it. So this is something you only do on rare occasions. So yeah. Krupi gets to talk to Rake, and Rake just kind of vibes with him. Like he's just like, yeah, you're cool. And I'm like, okay, all right. But yeah, Race just kills dragons and devastates the land like it's crazy. And then Perrin, the Blood of Hounds, like this is another thing. Like, so he kills a hound, but then he saves the hound's souls, and now he's like he's got like the hound's souls or like their blood or something like within him now. So like he starts getting like gnawed on. It's kind of crazy, and the hound spits him out because he's like, "Oh, you're like kin. Like I smell like myself on you. Like it's weird." Um, but it makes for some great moments for Perrin in this book. And then we have a scene between Cotillion and Perrin, which was pretty good. Solana, Red Dragon, and Rake apparently know each other, and Rake talks to her. Also, here's another big thing. Rake is Maleficent from Snow White, because as far as I understand it, he can just turn into a dragon. He just do that? He just do that? Okay. Well, that was also not something I was expecting, but cool. Rake is cool. He's very much like a 90s emo man, and I love him to death. What else? Oh, here's another thing. Again, this is what I was talking about, non-spoiler wise. So Finger shows up. He's a claw, another claw, and he's helping Kaladin Brood by helping Crocus stay alive. Also, Crocus is stupid. To be fair, he's 15, but everyone else feels like anything they do wrong, it's like with the information they had, they made the best decision, but Crocus is just stupid. But anyway, beyond that, Finger Claw guy just shows up out of nowhere. He just exists. He's helping out. And then also question mark, Rake is Coriol Galleon? I'm not sure because he says something about that. And then they mentioned this thing called Tayama, which I don't know if that means either. But Tayama, they say that there's more of her in Rake than Tistiandi blood, and I don't know what that means. Also, they get informed near the end of the book. I should mention Raced. He seemingly is defeated. I imagine he'll come back because why do you introduce a character that big to just throw him off? But he possesses Mammoth, Crocus's uncle. They have to kill Mammoth, and by so killing Wraith, whether he's permanently gone, I personally doubt it, but maybe he is. But he's gone for now, which is the important thing. But afterwards, the bridge burners kind of learn, oh yeah, like so, with one arm, Dujak and everything, we are actually like we are now rebels to the Empire because we've been officially cast out. So I'm sure that will have repercussions for later. So this is setting up for book 2. Like I said, the only returning characters we're going to see in this next novel that we're going to talk about is Calum, Fiddler, and Sari, because they're taking her back home. They made her that promise and they're sticking to it. But they will come back to help afterwards. And then they also make mentions of the Dead House, 7 Cities. Which will matter again for the next book. And then, only other thing is that Lorne gets killed by this thing called the Crimsguard, which we don't know what that is. But I also don't feel that this book did I understand that she's like down, she's depressed, and so maybe she's not her A game, but we previously saw her handle herself pretty well to get taken out pretty quickly. And I'm fine with characters dying, but it's the fact that it's people we've never met before who initiate it. And that's the thing, like, I understand, like, I will understand who these people are in the books to come. Like, it will all be explained. But if this was when this book was released and we had no other book out, this is what I'm left with, And I can trust the author to finish the whole story, and so it'll eventually be explained. But, like, what if you die, What if you have a Frank Herbert situation? Or you have a this, or you have a that, And, you never know. Things happen every day. And you just introduce these elements like the very, very, very end of the story. And I understand it was all intentional, right? And Malazan fans will tell me again that just read everything and you'll understand. And I'm accepting that for most of the stuff that I don't understand. But this isn't me not understanding. I understand that these are people here to help, and this is thing to do something, but they came at the very last second to save the day, which is just kind of annoying. And then I didn't mention the adsot, or whatever the fudge they are, and that's clearly meant to be explained later on too. But again, they show up at like the last possible moment, and it's like, like it's just frustrating a little bit. And those are really my only two grievances with this plot, because I know it will be resolved later, but it just feels like should have been, because most of this book, like even if I was confused about the magic system or certain things going on, like the general plot structure and characters and things, I understood everything that was happening for the most part. But those things, like there's no way for me to know, because you introduced them at the last second on purpose, because we didn't know, and you just expected to tell it in another story. But it just feels like a Deus Ex Machina. I know it's not. And I know veterans will say if you just read everything, but again, I'm trying to think of it as a person who's reading it as it came out. So there's no other books to go to. You only have this one. So, but other than that, I think this book is amazing. I think Steven Erikson is phenomenal. He should be up there with Tolkien, honestly, and George R. R. Martin. Maybe even, I think personally, even just from this one book, better than George R. R. Martin, personally. And that may be a hot take to some, but I'm sticking with that belief. So fight me on that, I guess. But overall, I thought this book was great. I thought it was phenomenal. I'm excited to read Dead House Gates, which is the next novel to begin. And yeah, no one's watching this because none of my subscribers read Malazan. But if you are coming in somewhere else and you're a Malazan fan, let me know your thoughts. I'm sure everybody has many in the comment section below. I'll have a review out eventually, non-spoiler wise. And yeah, I look forward to discussing book novel 2. So anyway, I'm going to go back to lying down because my back hurts. And I will see you all next time. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye-bye.